Deep down, you've always felt it that this world is a flawed imitation of something much greater. You are a fragment of infinite light, trapped in a body of suffering by an arrogant entity posing as the ultimate creator. This isn't just ancient mythology, it's the ultimate prison break manual. And it starts with the one secret they never wanted you to find. Long before the institutional church solidified its absolute power and dictated what the Bible would become, early spiritual seekers, known as the Gnostic teachers, understood a terrifying reality about the nature of our physical existence. They did not see the biblical God of the Old Testament as the ultimate source of boundless love, but rather as an ignorant, jealous architect who demanded blind obedience and thrived on human fear. To the Gnostic mind, the true ultimate reality is the monad, an incomprehensible, infinite source of pure light, perfect consciousness, and unconditional love that exists far beyond the corruptible material realm. The monad did not create the pain, disease, decay, and limitation of this physical world. Instead, this world is the product of a tragic cosmic accident, ruled by a lesser, arrogant entity known as the imposter god. When Jesus walked the earth, his secret, inner teachings were not about worshiping the creator of this flawed system. His true mission was to bring Gnosis direct, deeply personal, experiential knowledge of the divine spark trapped within human beings. He came to show a sleeping humanity how to bypass the parasitic wardens of this material prison and return their inner, radiant light to the eternal monad. The ancient texts detailing these profound mysteries were buried in the desert sands, burned by authorities, and branded as the ultimate heresy because they offered a path to spiritual liberation that required no priests, no towering temples, and no submission to the false god of the material world. The traditional biblical narratives were entirely flipped. The serpent in the garden was not the ultimate deceiver, but a desperate messenger trying to wake humanity from its engineered, blissful ignorance. If you understand this fundamental deception, the entire bloody history of human suffering begins to make perfect, chilling sense. But how did this monumental cosmic mistake actually happen, and who built this prison? The truth you are about to hear was nearly erased from history. If you are ready to reclaim your divine inheritance, join the Lost Gnosis right now. Subscribe and turn on the bell, because once you see the bars of the cage, you can never go back to sleep. Part 1. The Fall of Divine Wisdom. Before the stars were formed, before the heavy, relentless machinery of time itself began to tick, there was only the pleroma, the absolute fullness of the divine realm. It was not a physical place, but a dimension of pure, living thought, an infinite ocean of fractal light. This realm was populated by divine emanations known as aeons. These eons existed in perfect pairs, syzygies harmonized in the radiant light of the ultimate unknowable source. They were facets of the divine mind, existing in a state of eternal grace and perfect equilibrium. Among these immortal beings was the youngest aeon, whose name was Sophia, the Greek word for wisdom. Sophia possessed a deep, burning, almost agonizing desire to comprehend the infinite, unfathomable nature of the ultimate source. She wanted to know the unknowable. But in her passionate pursuit of this forbidden understanding, she made a catastrophic choice. She acted alone, projecting her thought outward without the balance of her divine masculine counterpart. In the delicate ecosystem of the pleroma, creation required perfect harmony. Her unguided passion, born of profound love but lacking balance, created a literal tear in the perfect fabric of the spiritual realm. From this profound cosmic error, an anomaly was violently expelled. It was a being of sheer chaos, a monstrous abortion of divine thought cast out of the eternal light and into the kanoma, the dark, desolate, terrifying void that existed completely outside the fullness of God. Sophia, deeply horrified and consumed by grief over what she had inadvertently brought into existence, veiled this creature in a luminous cloud. She wanted to hide her shame so that none of the other immortals might see it, She named this twisted entity Yaldabaoth, the child of chaos. This entity was terrifying to behold. It had the undulating, shifting body of a serpent and the fierce, commanding face of a lion, with eyes flashing like violent cosmic lightning. Because he was born outside the divine light, violently severed from the pleroma, Yaldabaoth was completely ignorant of the higher realms. He was born entirely blind to the truth. He opened his flashing eyes in the cold, empty void, looked around the boundless darkness, and mistakenly believed he was the absolute only being in existence. This arrogant, blind god is the entity that the Gnostics identified as the Demiurge, the lesser creator, the half-maker. Deluded by his own isolation and believing himself to be supreme, Yaldabaoth proclaimed into the darkness, "I am a jealous god, and there is no other god beside me." This single, echoing statement revealed his profound fundamental ignorance. As the secret Gnostic texts boldly ask, if there were no other gods, of whom could he possibly be jealous? His very jealousy proved his unconscious awareness of a greater power he could not comprehend. With a stolen fraction of divine power inherited from his mother Sophia, the Demiurge began to organize the chaotic void. He could not create from nothing. He could only shape the dense, heavy matter, the dark substance the ancient Greeks called hyle. He forged the physical universe. He molded the burning stars, the orbiting planets, the earth, and the dense, restrictive matter that forms the entirety of our perceived reality. But he built this universe not as a paradise of free will, but as a rigid mechanical system. It was governed by strict physical laws, the relentless decay of entropy, and the inescapable, crushing weight of time. It was a pale, flawed, heavily distorted imitation of the eternal pleroma. He could not see a shadow play, mimicking true light. To help him rule this newly forged, heavy material kingdom, Yaldabaoth created a legion of subservient entities known as the Archons. These rulers were the cosmic architects of the Matrix, the merciless wardens of the material prison. Ancient texts describe them as taking on terrifying, chaotic forms, part beast, part machine, devoid of empathy. They governed the 7 planetary spheres, creating the intricate astrological clockwork of fate, known as Hymarmene. This cosmic net was meticulously designed to keep everything trapped in a perpetual, inescapable cycle of physical birth, suffering, forgetting, and death. The physical world was finally complete. It was vast, complex, and seemingly beautiful in its brutal, unforgiving geometry. But it lacked the one crucial thing the Demiurge could never genuinely create: a soul. It was a dead, mechanical realm, a beautifully constructed corpse. It was a cold, hollow shell, a machine waiting for a spark. It needed a power source to keep the heavy gears of time turning. It needed life, and that life would have to be stolen. Part 2. The Archon Frequency Prison. The Archons looked upon the physical forms they had molded from the dust of the earth, but these bodies were empty, pathetic shells. They could twitch, they could crawl, but they could not stand, they could not think. High above the firmament, Sophia saw the tragic state of the world her offspring had constructed. In a desperate attempt to bring life to this dead, mechanical machinery and ultimately redeem her cosmic mistake, she tricked the Demiurge into breathing his stolen divine power into the human vessel. The moment Yaldabaoth breathed into the first human, a piece of the divine spark, the pneuma, passed from him and became trapped inside the dense, fleshy prison of the human body. Suddenly, the human possessed a spiritual light that far surpassed the Demiurge and his Archons. Humanity contained the literal essence of the ultimate divine realm, a fractal of the infinite monad itself. When the Archons realized what had happened, they were consumed by a volatile mixture of envy and sheer terror. They had inadvertently armed their own prisoners with a power infinitely greater than their own. If humanity ever realized the true nature of the blazing light hidden within them, they would shatter the material illusion, bend reality to their will, and effortlessly overthrow their cosmic jailers. So, The Archons did not destroy humanity, they couldn't. Instead, they devised a ruthless, brilliant strategy to keep humanity asleep. They constructed a frequency prison. They engineered the human brain and the five senses not as windows to perceive reality, but as restrictive filters designed to block out 99% of the universal spectrum. You were given eyes that cannot see the energy fields around you, and ears that cannot hear the cosmic frequencies above you. They created the illusion of linear time to keep the human mind perpetually trapped in a pendulum swing between regrets of the past and anxieties of the future, ensuring you are never truly present in the now, the only place where divine connection exists. But their most insidious weapon was the creation of a heavy, suffocating spiritual amnesia known as the water of forgetfulness, or lethe. The Gnostics understood that reincarnation was not a beautiful evolutionary school for the soul, but a sophisticated recycling system. Every time a divine spark is incarnated into a physical body, it is forced through this energetic barrier, forced to drink from the waters of forgetfulness. You are born completely wiped clean, entirely unaware of your divine origin, your past victories, or your true power. From the moment you take your first breath, the indoctrination begins. You are aggressively taught to identify solely with your physical avatar, your name, your social status, your bank account, and your earthly desires. The Archons flooded the material world with endless, calculated distractions. They built societies centered around base desires, physical pain, artificial scarcity, and constant, exhausting survival struggles. They engineered a relentless rat race and a 2-4-hour news cycle of doom to ensure you never, ever have the quiet, silent moment needed to look inward and remember who you are. They don't just want to keep you ignorant, they absolutely need you. The Archons are inorganic beings. They lack the divine spark, which means they are entirely incapable of generating their own spiritual energy. They are, in the truest sense, cosmic parasites that feed on the low-frequency energy generated by human suffering, fear, anger, jealousy, and grief. A dense, energetic substance. Esoteric traditions sometimes call louche. Every war fought over invisible borders, every manufactured economic crisis, every famine, every bitter societal division, and every silent moment of personal, crushing anxiety in your bedroom at night is a meticulously engineered harvest. The Matrix is not a computer simulation running on code. It is a sprawling, living, energetic farm, and humanity is the crop. You are being milked for your despair. They feed on your fear. Don't give it to them. Instead, vibrate at a higher frequency. If these words feel like a memory stirring in your soul, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm that the light is spreading and more sparks need to find the Lost Gnosis. But the architects of this grand prison made one fatal miscalculation. They assumed the light could be kept asleep forever. They forgot that no matter how much dirt you throw over a burning ember from the eternal monad, it only takes a single breath of truth to ignite a roaring fire. Part 3. The banned Nag Hammadi texts. For centuries, the ultimate truth regarding our reality was completely systematically erased from human history. The cosmic overseers knew that if the masses ever realized they were divine sparks trapped in a biological harvesting machine, the entire system of control would collapse overnight. So, the Archons used their most effective earthly tool to ensure humanity remained entirely asleep: institutional religion. They weaponized faith. By the 4th century, when the Roman Empire merged its immense political power with a heavily edited, sanitized version of Christianity, a brutal campaign of spiritual censorship began. The early church fathers, acting as the unwitting agents of the Demiurge, declared the Gnostic teachings to be the ultimate heresy. They ordered the immediate destruction of all texts that contradicted the narrative of a benevolent material creator. Why were the Gnostics hunted with such terrifying ruthlessness? Why were they burned, silenced, and driven to absolute extinction? Because Gnosticism poses the single greatest threat to any system of external control. Institutional religion tells you that you are fundamentally broken, born into sin, and that you desperately need a priest, a church, or a savior to mediate your relationship with the divine. It demands submission, obedience, and, above all, the payment of your spiritual and physical energy. The Gnostics, however, taught something entirely different, something utterly terrifying to those in power. They taught that you do not need a middleman. You do not need to look up at the sky to find God, because the true, incorruptible essence of the monad is already buried deep within your own chest. In December of 1945, the earth finally gave back what the authorities had desperately tried to bury. In the barren, sun-scorched desert of Upper Egypt, near a town called Nag Hammadi, an Arab peasant named Muhammad Ali al-Saman was digging for soft soil to use as fertilizer. His mattock struck something hard. Beneath the ancient sand, he unearthed a large, sealed red earthenware jar. Inside that jar were 13 leather-bound papyrus codices. These fragile, decaying pages contained the secret, forbidden teachings that the empire thought it had successfully burned out of existence nearly 2,000 years ago. This monumental discovery included lost masterpieces of spiritual rebellion, like the Secret Book of John, the Gospel of Truth, and the Gospel of Thomas. These were not just alternative theological perspectives. They were highly detailed, operational manuals for the human soul. When scholars finally translated these texts, they did not find a message of blind faith. They found a precise, clinical mapping of the cosmic anomaly. The texts explicitly named Yaldabaoth. They described the parasitic nature of the Archons in terrifying detail. They explained exactly how the material universe was constructed as an elaborate illusion to keep the divine spark trapped in a perpetual cycle of reincarnation and amnesia. The Gospel of Thomas famously records the secret sayings of Jesus, stripping away all the dogma of the church. In it, Jesus does not speak of building magnificent temples or bowing in fear to a jealous creator. Instead, he delivers a profound, reality-altering truth. The kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will become known, and you will realize that it is you who are the sons of the living Father. But if you will not know yourselves, you dwell in poverty, and it is you who are that poverty. This was the ultimate forbidden knowledge. The Nag Hammadi library exposed the greatest deception in the history of the cosmos, the entity being worshipped in the grandiose cathedrals, the god demanding blood sacrifices, endless wars, and absolute terror in the Old Testament was not the true Father, it was the Demiurge. Humanity had been tricked into worshipping the very warden of its own prison. The Archons had successfully inverted reality, painting themselves as divine creators while actively feeding off the suffering and devotion of their blind captives. But diagnosing the cosmic disease was only half of the Gnostic mission. Understanding that you are living inside an incredibly fortified spiritual prison is utterly useless if you do not have the keys to unlock the door. The ancient teachers did not just write these texts to expose the Demiurge. They wrote them to provide the exact, step-by-step escape route. They left behind the schematic. They knew that the true test of the human soul does not happen during your waking life. The ultimate trap, the final, terrifying deception of the Archon system, is waiting for you in the exact moment your physical heart takes its very last beat. Before we reveal the secret escape manual of the ancient masters, make sure you are part of our circle. Knowledge is the only weapon that can shatter this matrix. Now, let's look at the final door. Final part, escaping the Archon matrix. What happens when you die? Modern near-death experiences frequently report a very similar, comforting sequence of events. The soul leaves the heavy physical body. It enters a dark tunnel, and at the end of that tunnel, is a brilliant, warm, incredibly welcoming white light. Figures appear often deceased relatives, loved ones, or religious figures matching the individual's earthly beliefs. They urge the soul to step into the light, promising absolute peace, absolute love, and a review of their earthly life. To the uninitiated, this sounds like a beautiful transition into heaven. But to the ancient Gnostics, this widely reported phenomenon is the most sinister, deceptive trap in the entire Archon architecture. The white light at the end of the tunnel is not a gateway to the eternal pleroma. It is a highly advanced, frequency-based recycling center. It is the ultimate cosmic flytrap, designed by the Demiurge to capture the escaping divine spark before it can remember its true origin. When a soul steps into that artificial light, it is subjected to the life review. The Archons use a highly manipulative emotional weapon, guilt. They force the soul to re-experience every mistake, every pain it caused, and every unfulfilled desire. They use the very morality they installed in the Matrix to convince the soul that it has not learned enough lessons, that it is spiritually indebted, and that it must return to the physical realm to balance its karma. Karma, in the Gnostic understanding, is not a beautiful, universal law of spiritual justice. It is a predatory debt slavery system engineered to keep the battery plugged in. It is a manufactured excuse to force the divine spark to drink once again from the waters of Lethe, the river of forgetfulness, and re-enter a new, dense physical body, completely stripped of its memories. This is the endless wheel of suffering. This is how the Archons maintain their energetic food supply across thousands of generations. So how do you break the cycle? How do you escape the final trap? The Gnostic texts provide the defense protocol. The weapon is Gnosis, direct, unwavering knowledge of who and what you truly are. When the time comes and the physical shell falls away, the awakened soul must absolutely refuse to enter the false light. When the Archons appear, wearing the comforting holographic masks of angels or loved ones, you must not be swayed by their emotional manipulation. You must not agree to any life review, and you must completely reject the concept of karmic debt. The ancient texts instruct the soul to stand its ground with absolute sovereign authority. You do not beg, you do not pray to them, you do not fight them, for fighting lowers your frequency to their level. Instead, you declare your true lineage. You state, with the power of the monad behind you, I am a child of the pre-existent Father. I am a spark of the eternal light. I do not belong to you, and I do not belong to this flawed creation. I demand my return to the pleroma. When a soul possesses true gnosis, it vibrates at a frequency so impossibly high, so blindingly pure, that the Archons physically cannot touch it. The artificial grid simply shatters around them, and the spark is free to ascend beyond the planetary spheres, bypassing the Demiurge entirely and dissolving back into the infinite, loving embrace of the ultimate source. But you do not have to wait until the moment of physical death to begin your escape. Gnosis is achieved in the here and now. It begins the moment you stop seeking salvation outside of yourself and start looking within. It begins when you deliberately choose to stop feeding the Matrix. Every time you refuse to give in to manufactured fear, every time you reject the endless outrage of the daily news cycle, every time you choose profound stillness over the chaotic distractions of modern life, you are starving the Archons. You are reclaiming your stolen energy. The system built by Yaldabaoth is vast, it is terrifying, and it has controlled human destiny for millennia. But it is fundamentally fragile because it requires your continuous consent. It requires your energetic participation. The moment you remember your true nature, the prison doors are revealed to be an illusion. The Matrix is already crumbling. Across the globe, the scattered fragments of Sophia's light are finally beginning to remember themselves. If these words resonate deep within your chest, if you feel an ancient memory stirring beneath the heavy layers of worldly programming, that is your divine spark, recognizing the undeniable truth. You are not just a biological machine, and you were not born to be a battery for blind gods. You are eternal. Protect your light. Do not let them harvest your fear. If you are ready to continue uncovering the suppressed truths of our reality and master the architecture of your own soul, hit the subscribe button now. Share this knowledge with those who are ready to hear it. The Great Awakening has begun, and together we are finding our way out of the dark.